It was interesting. We're like in the bush. I mean, like in the bush, big time, man.
And you're watching Checking In Clips.
Is there?
The reason we
She did it.
clickbaited people
We didn't
is
clickbait.
we didn't really. Well, yeah, we did. But the reason is because Joe Rogan.
Oh shit! I just read the title. Yeah, we clickbaited. Wow! Wow! Jesus, dude! God!
Oh, we didn't clickbait that? Damn.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Continue.
So why did we
So
do this?
Joe Rogan, the king of really podcasting. I mean, he took
Sure.
podcasting to the next level. Just signed a contract with Spotify. He's going to be moving for $100 million.
Now is
So
this
crazy.
So I just want to. Is this confirmed money?
Oh, it's confirmed. Yeah, it's
Okay,
100%.
okay,
yeah.
cool.
He's got $100 million.
That's awesome.
In the bank. And
Imagine how good that feels.
it's got to feel pretty good. I mean, I always said, like, listen, like that's like professional, like top of professional sports athlete type money.
That's LeBron James.
That's maybe not LeBron. LeBron probably makes more, but
in like a 4-year contract.
yeah,
or
I mean
whatever.
that's we're talking like unbelievable money for a guy that literally started out on Fear Factor, then went on to the
It's
UFC,
awesome.
and then ultimately now is podcasting, and I love his
crushing
podcast.
it. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like
No,
he's
he's doing
got
good.
the following, and I
awesome.
get it. And
But $100 million.
It's pretty cool, right?
I mean, that's got to be the first $100 million contract for a.
Podcast.
Well, certainly for a podcaster, but maybe even a social media influencer of any
Oh,
sort.
that's
And that's
tough.
not to say, no, listen, that's not to say that the Logan Pauls of the world and the David Dobrik's haven't made that kind of money over their
No, I know
career.
what you're
but in
saying.
one lump sum.
well,
I know what you're saying.
Did you? Because I read actually this morning about that, and the reason he got that money is
Right.
because Spotify is paying him that for
Exclusivity. No, right, yeah.
And that's for everything. That's not only on the podcast, but that's video too, because
Yeah, well, of
Spotify
course,
is
yeah.
doing video, so he can't post his stuff on YouTube.
Keeping,
or anything
yeah,
like
he's
yeah.
that
keeping his clip
either.
channel on YouTube though.
So
Is he?
are you
Yeah,
sure?
Yep, he posted a video. I
that's so
saw the
smart.
Well,
I saw
it
the
starts-
video.
it
So if it's
starts-
a deep
no,
fake, then
it starts in
but-
September, according to the article.
No, no, but
no,
the whole thing,
no.
no. So this is, you're right. Let's clarify. So basically what happens is, you're right, Noah. So
So he probably
he's
put that
right
in the
now
contract
he's
on
posting
if you
on all platforms.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of the year, he is exclusive to Spotify with the exception of the Clips channel that can go on.
Yeah.
And the
Okay.
Clips channel actually
Makes the most,
is
right?
probably the biggest moneymaker, which, by the way, if you guys haven't subscribe to the Checking In Clips channel. Shameless plug.
Jesus,
No, that's heavy. I like that.
that was fucking deep.
Wasn't it? That's never a
That was
missed
like
opportunity.
that was like this. Like you snuck up to him and you're just like,
You know,
their
literally,
throat
the
real quick.
entire Joe Rogan story was just so I could pitch our clip channel.
that's awesome.
That's right.
Genius.
No,
That's
no.
awesome.
That's not true. I just saw an opportunity. But the thing is that I'm amazed at that. I met
Me
Joe.
too.
I met Joe a couple times. Real nice guy.
never met
yeah,
Joe.
real nice
How
guy.
did you meet Joe?
So remember Mike Goldberg, who was the announcer for the Red Wings for a minute,
yeah.
and then he was the announcer for the Minnesota Wild. Of course, Burnsy's our friend. He hooked me up with Mike Goldberg when me and Lee, your brother, my brother-in-law, went to the UFC fight. So we got to go hang out with Mike Goldberg, which of course was with Joe Rogan, and Joe was the nicest guy in the world. And I'll never forget the thing that I
So
found
you
interesting.
and Lee got to meet him.
Right, me and Lee
Okay.
got to meet Joe, and twice. And the thing that I remember about Joe, my one story, of course, he would never remember me, but the story was just we were talking before the UFC, and literally I remember him and Mike were talking, and we're just going back and forth about things like, oh yeah, Burnsy, and talking about sports and all this stuff. And literally Joe goes, someone walked up to Joe and said, we're live, because we're going live for the main event, you know, not the main event, but the pay-per-view. They're like, yeah, we go live in 30 seconds. And he's like, oh yeah, that's cool. And he just kept talking to me. It's like 30 seconds. And then like talked for like 10 more seconds, then turned around, sat down, went live.
That's awesome.
It was pretty cool. And then, of course, we saw him
That's
live
cool.
in comedy.
I'm
I
so
know, he does-
excited because you know what? You have this story. So when you get to meet him and or be on his podcast, this is the
Speak it
story.
into existence. Say it.
This is the story you can share.
Yeah.
How cool is
Manifestation.
that?
Be careful what you manifest, but at the same time, it's good
Don't
when
be
you
afraid.
manifest stuff like that.
So
Yeah.
weirdly enough, I
That
don't,
would be
I've
cool.
never told the story, obviously, on the podcast, but there's a guy named Matt Staggs who reached out to me
I know the
probably,
name.
yeah, Matt Staggs about maybe 7 years ago reached out to me, and he was like, I guess he watched the vlog, and he was like, hey, I do this little podcast, and would you want to be on it? And I was like, yeah, that'd be great, you know, whatever. So I went on, blah, blah. He and again, I don't know if he still does, but up until like 8 months ago, he was Joe Rogan's booker. He was the one that booked all of Joe Rogan's stuff.
Really?
And so
Small
the reason
world.
I say I don't know if he still does is because we linked up on Twitter. He deleted his Twitter account about 6 months ago, and I've texted him a couple times, and he has not responded. So I don't know. I mean, heaven forbid, maybe he's not even with us anymore. I have no
my
idea.
goodness.
I mean, he's just gone.
You know what?
like,
Or maybe, you know what?
did I
Maybe
jump
he-
to? Did I jump to?
Yeah, you jumped
Maybe
the
he got a new
shark.
phone,
The thing
dude.
is, he's like,
You jumped
you're
the
name
shark?
dropping, and you're name dropping, and you're just like, and maybe he's just fucking dead. He's like, oh.